From top name brands like Nike, Jordan, Vans, Adidas, Converse, Puma, Champion, and more. And WSS also carries athletic apparel from top name brands for men's, women's, and kids. Hurry into WSS and stretch your tax refund. Shop WSS for the shoes and clothing you love for everyone in your family. WSS, all about shoes, always near you. For a store near you, visit shopwss.com.
Teaching is creative, collaborative, intellectually challenging, and every day is new. See why teachers have better work stories by going to teach.org and learn more about becoming a teacher. Brought to you by teach.org and the Ad Council.
¿Tenemos 4 citas a las 2:30?
La clínica de terapia física de Yin ha perdido flexibilidad.
Sorry por la espera, señora Martínez. Estaré con usted en un momento.
Necesita otro terapeuta antes que los pacientes pierdan la cabeza. Indeed lo ayuda a contratar gente talentosa rápido.
Necesito Indeed.
Instant Match inmediatamente te conecta con candidatos de calidad cuyos currículums en Indeed cumplen con tu descripción de empleo patrocinado. Visita Indeed.com/crédito y recibe $75 para tu primer empleo patrocinado.
I can afford to do whatever I put my mind to.
I can afford college. Start your future at a California community college. Financial aid is available to help with tuition, books, and sometimes even the rent.
I can afford to invest in myself and my future.
It's time to take the next big step. Classes can fill up quickly, so enroll today at icangotocollege.com.
Look, that also means a lot of greasy pots and pans. And we can't waste time with endless sink changeovers. So we upgraded to Dawn Professional Pot and Pan.
Dawn Professional cleans 58% more pots and pans per sink than the leading competitor.
Less dish soap, fewer changeovers, and more time doing what we love.
Dawn Professional. It's clean. Upgraded. From P&G Professional.
CalHope can help with free COVID-19 emotional support. Call 833-317-4673 or live chat at calhope.org today.
A hero. Come on. And a villain.
You won't get away this time.
Face off in a Nissan sales event ad.
Wait, what?
Starring the Nissan Rogue.
Oh, nice.
And featuring more power than a CR-V.
See ya.
You won't want to miss any of the action at the Nissan Thrill of the Drive sales event.
Right now, get 0% APR financing for up to 72 months on 14 models. Availability is limited, so contact your local dealer for inventory information and shop NissanUSA.com today before these offers get away.
So there you go. Mask, vax, and get boosted. Learn more at covid19.ca.gov. Brought to you by the California Department of Public Health.
Stunning streams, unbelievable bandwidth. It's another Lifestyles of Gagillionaires. Meet the AT&T Fiber customers winning at life with hyper-gig speeds. Meet Gagillionaire Terry. While his love of streaming horror movies has him constantly on the edge of his seat, his internet bill won't give him a scare.
Oh, I'm going there. I'm telling you.
Because since Terry upgraded to AT&T Fiber with hyper-gig speeds, he doesn't worry about data caps or equipment fees.
Come on, man. The door's open for a reason.
And best yet, he also doesn't stress about a price increase at 12 months. Because with the amazing Gagillionaire lifestyle comes an exquisite sense of tranquility. Most of the time. Live like a Gagillionaire. Get straightforward pricing with AT&T Fiber. Internet that upgrades everything. No data caps, no equipment fees, and no price increase at 12 months.
Limited availability in select areas. Visit att.com/hypergig for details.
Team up? Less bloating means I like the way my jeans fit again. A balanced gut means I'm more comfortable being out with my friends. I trust Align because my doctor recommended it. Align has probiotics that can help relieve occasional bloating, gas, and abdominal discomfort. So join the Align Healthy Gut Team Up. Try Align Probiotics for a month and see how great a healthy gut can feel. Get $2 off your first month of Align at alignprobiotics.com.
Black wants to celebrate you, the change makers, innovators, and visionaries, uplifting their communities. If that's you, you won't want to miss the chance to power even greater possibilities. Enter the AT&T Black Future Makers Contest for a chance to win $10,000 and an AT&T 5G-enabled device. You got this. Learn more at attdreaminblack.com/contest. Must be 18 and older. Other restrictions apply.
Your break for Bacon Bite. Ah, yes, the open road. Just you and your hunger. And if you listen carefully, you can hear what it's craving. Bacon. Extra bacon. 4 strips of crispy bacon stacked on a charbroiled beef patty with melty cheese. Satisfy your bacon craving with the Bacon Beast Burger or the Bacon Beast Burrito with melty cheese for breakfast. Try the new Bacon Beast menu from Carl's Jr. Feed your happy. Available for limited time at participating Carl's Jr. restaurants. Bacon Beast Burrito available during regular breakfast hours. Price specification may vary.
Right now, you can download the SiriusXM app and try it out free. Plug into over 350 channels, packed with ad-free music, plus comedy, news, talk, Howard Stern, live sports, and more. Create personalized Pandora stations and dive into the best collection of podcasts curated just for you. So download the SXM app now, try it out, and enjoy all the great entertainment we have to offer free.
For hand-picked fruits and vegetables, harvested at the peak of flavor, from farm to you. Visit our produce department today and see how we're perfecting the art of fresh.
Find out at the virtual California Conference for Women March 2nd. Speakers include author Brené Brown, civil rights legend Dolores Huerta, singer Mary J. Blige, and top workplace and personal development experts.
Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts for the power, performance, and reliability of a new Super Start battery. Visit O'ReillyAuto.com.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Mordida que dice, escucha tus antojos. Tú en tu carro y con hambre. Y si escuchas bien, puedes escuchar lo que antojas. ¿Tocino? ¿Más tocino? 4 tiras de tocino crujiente encima de un patty de carne a la brasa con salsa y queso derretido. Satisface tu antojo de tocino con la Bacon Beast Burger o ese mismo tocino en un burrito de desayuno. Prueba el nuevo menú de Bacon Beast de Carl's Jr. Feed your happy.
Mejora la visibilidad y ahorra con O'Reilly Auto Parts. Llévate un par de limpia parabrisas Rain-X Advantage y ahorra $10 con esta compra. Además, nuestros profesionales en autopartes pueden instalar tus limpia parabrisas nuevos ahí mismo. Realiza tus compras en tu tienda O'Reilly Auto Parts más cercana o en O'ReillyAuto.com.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
We believe the best medical care knows no boundaries. We responded to the pandemic around the world, including right here in the United States. Because of 6 million supporters who stepped up in this time of crisis, our teams could train health workers and vaccinate those in need. Independent and impartial, we respond at a moment's notice with medical care where it's needed most. We are Doctors Without Borders.
Starring Vince Bloom, the big dog, and 9-week-old O'Malley, the newest canine companions puppy, sponsored by Lasher's Elk Grove Subaru.
You know how they say the best things come in small packages? Well, O'Malley here is a perfect example. He's a black 9-week-old Labrador Retriever, destined for service. They also say the best Elk Grove Subarus come with small financing. How does 1.9% sound? This month at Lasher's Elk Grove Subaru, you can get financing as low as 1.9% for up to 48 months on new 2022 Subaru Ascents, Outbacks, Foresters, Legacies, Crosstreks, and Imprezas. That's right, 1.9% financing for up to 48 months on a new 2022 Subaru. How can you resist that? How can you resist that little face? You can't. Only at Lasher's Elk Grove Subaru. The Elk Grove Auto Mall and online at elkgrovesubaru.com. For over 60 years, our name means a great deal.
1.9% APR for 48 months is $21.65 per month per $1,000 borrowed. For qualified buyers upon approved credit, must take delivery from dealer stock. See dealer for details.
Diabetes, artritis y menopausia son combatidas con células madre. Los invitamos a escuchar este y todos los fines de semana el programa del Dr. Víctor Acosta y las células madre, donde usted encontrará mucha información, promociones y buenos precios. Haga su consulta al 1-800-957-0047.
Let's get ready to rumble! Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton of Big C Sports. This is Charlton of Big C Sports, coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports news in the universe. Of course, the people who love sports, and that would be me, all spring and never more. What a beautiful February the 24th, 2022. Round on the board, there's Bonjour. There's Vinny. I love saying welcome to the show. Today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers. home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard in the world when you go by and test drive yours to Philip Stroughton of Big C Sports Center, as well as a fleet of Cadillac cars all around the universe. You can follow Big C Sports streaming live on 23 podcast applications. 23 podcast applications. Number one, it's more than, I gotta say 23. I don't know why I'm gonna count from 1 to 23, but I will say it because, hey, they brought me on. I may as well say it. Google, Alexa, Spotify, Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, iHeart-Radio Podcast, Castbox Podcast, Deezer Podcast, Podcast Addict, and also Podchaser. Yeah, that's the praise. I made it to 10. Come on. Try counting to 10 sometime. It's not as easy as it seems. You can follow Big C Sports on Geo Savon Podcast out of London, England. You can follow Big C Sports on Podtail, YouTube, Hubhopper, Stitcher Podcast, Radio Line, Repod Podcast, Luminary Podcast, Listen Notes, Podcast Wise, Podbay, Verbal Podcast, and the one that scares me, AllFeeds.ai. Give it some praise. The computers are taking over. That's the praise. Praise. One of these days, in order to listen to a Big C Sports Podcast, just talk to a computer. Oh, wait a minute. That's what you do right now, isn't it? Computers are taking over right before our very eyes. All strand level where you can also follow Big C Sports streaming all around the universe. Streaming on 4 TV platforms: Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. And I really do give that some praise. Give that praise. You know, I love paying homage to my family legacy. No other sports show does that but me. On my mother's side, my great-grandmother called her a mama, the matriarch of the family. A wonderful, beautiful woman, very smart, industrious, hardworking, making sure the family stays strong through thick and thin. Really do appreciate that. And also, the patriarch of the family, my great-grandfather called on Pop, former Negro League baseball player, very active in the church, known for making the best moonshine in the universe, and for saying, boys, get out of that barn. How many times can I tell you? May lightning strike. He actually tried to create lightning. Moonshine lightning. It's all fair level work. Really do appreciate Pop. Very smart, wise man. Grew all of his fruits and vegetables. And then my grandmother, Muddia, a wonderful person, very smart, intelligent, a seer. She could look at people and tell you a lot of things about that person's life, past, present, and future. Really do appreciate a lot of things that she's poured into my life. And then my grandfather, Hezekiah, another wonderful person, did everything to keep the family strong. My beautiful mother, I always say, and it's my opinion, the best mother in the history of the universe. A Head Start program, started a Head Start program in Central California, and a food program to feed people, give mama some praise, and also help win the Little League Championship of the universe. Give mama some praise. Come on, a Head Start program, a food program, and win the Little League Championship of the universe. How many people can say that? The only woman in the league coaching team, and a lot of people gave her a lot of crap. She said, if you don't want to listen, just quit. All's fair and love and war. And then on my father's side of the family, the patriarch of the family, my grandfather, Albert Curry, a former pastor, had 2 churches in Oakland, California, built a 3rd one in Central California, and also had, it's amazing, 2 service stations in Oakland, California. Really do appreciate him. Very smart, hardworking, industrious man. And then my grandmother, Alberta Curry, working hand in hand with my grandfather, Albert Curry, with the running of the churches and building the 3rd one in Central California. And then also had 2 service stations in Oakland, California, always doing what it took to keep the family strong. Appreciate that. My father, former Air Force fighter pilot, chief mechanic, also making sure that planes could fly high so we could all stay safe at night. And always saying, always develop your mind to its highest extent. Really do appreciate that. And then my beautiful brother, Todd, with all of his wealth of knowledge, read more than anybody ever met. Sound like thunder and lightning when Todd was speaking. Again, I always say our favorite movie was really Scarface, but because it has so much violence, we chose that Pulp Fiction would be our favorite movie. And that movie where Bruce Willis told Vin Rames told Bruce Willis, your butt goes down in the 4th round. That stinging sensation you're feeling, that's pride flipping with you. Flip pride. I got away with that too. And he did go down. No, Bruce didn't go down in the 4th round. That's why he had to get out of Dodge. Them good old boys were looking for him. Really do appreciate that. And then my beautiful daughter, Daisy, the most beautiful daughter in the history of the universe. Daisy, very smart, beautiful. Listen, 2 degrees with honors, graduated college in 3.5 years with honors. She actually helped me set up the very first interview with Big C Sports back at Salem Media. Just very smart, industrious. Really do appreciate Daisy. She would help me set up when coaches would come to the West Coast to focus on products for Big C Sports. Really do appreciate that. And then my beautiful son, Malcolm, the most handsome son in the history of the universe. I always love telling Malcolm, Wakanda forever. Like in The Lion King, you always protect your family. Never let anybody from the outside take your family down. That's always fair and level word. Malcolm, very smart, hardworking, industrious college kid. Always sends me stats. NBA stats for Big C Sports. All over the NBA, knows it inside and out. And he's the reason I started Googling sports instead of looking through the newspaper. All fair and level work. Really do appreciate that. And then Big C, with all his wealth of knowledge in the past, you gotta believe, you gotta believe, you gotta believe. Give everybody some praise. I say give everybody praise. I love doing praise, praise, praise. The reason I say praise so much is because I grew up with the church. Mama's always in church. And then grandparents owning churches, and just a lot of good things come out of the church for the black community. Really do appreciate that. And then I always say, as a lot of promoters have stolen this, and it was my family that did it first. My great-grandfather, when he would come home from the church with all of his church brethren, they'd go out into that barn and they would say, "Let's get ready to rumble." That's why I started saying, welcome to the show. ESPY-nominated Big C Sports Podcast. No scripts. No three-way teleprompters, no producer in my ear. I do the show with my higher self. I walk by faith and talk by faith and not by sight. And I only give you one show per day. Your cookies are fresh out of the oven. You ever go to someone's restaurant where people serve you 3 and 4 day old cookies? They can't taste really good, but they figure you don't know the difference. Sometimes you listen to sports shows and they loop that same show 3 or 4 times a day with Big C Sports. Like Eminem said, you only get one shot. I don't loop it at all. It comes out fresh, one day at a time, out of the oven like Mrs. Phil's cookies. And that's what I love doing about Big C Sports Podcast. It's really fresh, and I do it, I'm telling you, I do it with my higher self. I always produce. I direct the topics. I broadcast the shows. I do the sound effects based on what's provided by the agency. We can all use more laughter in our lives. Really do appreciate that. And then the commercials are done, the stats providing, the storytelling, and I love doing the play-by-play, and I'll do it even more so. Steph Curry for 3! I love saying that because I still have Golden State making it to the Western Conference Finals and perhaps even winning the NBA championship this year in 2022. Big C Sports will be there. Then I upload the show, goes out to 23 multiple podcast applications. Rumor has it there's a 24th one coming up in, I believe, in the month of March. So we'll see how that goes, taking on Big C Sports Podcast. And now, number 10, I never missed a show since starting Big C Sports with the crew of people back in September 12, 2015, and took our market to number 1 in the market, helped Salem Media bring on Monday Night Football, and that's on the Wall Street Business Network. Started a sports show on the Wall Street Business Network, and they brought in Monday Night Football because of what Big C Sports was doing. Then they brought in some mainstream guys that said, hey, we can do it too. And they started saying, welcome to the show. And then all the sponsors left. And now it's just back to the Wall Street Business Network, all fair and love and war. Nothing wrong with that. But I love honoring God. And I think I'm the only sports show. I might be wrong. I hear more people saying it more and more lately, but I think I'm the only sports show in the universe that always honors God. One of the favorite verses I heard growing up as a young boy in the church was in Genesis 13:15, and it said, for all the land that thou seest will I give you, and thy seed forever. In the book of James, chapter 4, verse 2, said, ye have not because you ask not. If you want something to just ask, the answer is either yes or no, but it's always no if you don't ask, so make sure you ask. And when you're asking, like I always say, give the good book some praise. You got to give it praise, praise, praise. Not everybody does that, but it's all fair in love and war. I also want to say thank you to Xfinity Comcast TV and Comcast Spotlight Effect TV for presenting Big C Sports to the universe, just like in Genesis 1:3. God said, let there be light. Open your cell phones or electronic devices and just said, play Big C Sports Podcast. You will see our apps pop up all over the world, and I'm going to give apps and computers some praise. Think about that, giving apps and computers some praise. I remember in the movie, actually the TV show by Gene Roddenberry, it was called Star Trek, to boldly go where no man has gone before. It's like that's what we're doing now. They've been speaking to the tricorder, and they would give them what they were looking for. So very prescient back in the day with Star Trek and then Star Wars, all's fair in love and war. And I really do appreciate that. Also, fortunately, going into the world of sports marketing agency for Big C Sports in 2022, working with some of the top sports agents as we work with NBA, NFL, and Major League Baseball talent, maybe even some soccer coming up too. But I'm just working on getting my certifications done for that. I was invited into that world of sports by one of the top sports agents in the country, so really do appreciate that. And the sports marketing agencies, as I say, a lot of black men looking for work in the world of sports that's dominated by black men, especially football and basketball. And when you think about it, even baseball, the home run king in baseball is Barry Bonds. No one's hit more home runs than Barry Bonds. So everywhere you look around sports, it's been dominated by men of color. Oftentimes, those same men can't get jobs coaching a sport that they dominated, and that has to make you go, So sports marketing agency, when you think about it, an agent can have several athletes that you sign to a professional sports contract. If you're an athlete, you only have that one contract with the team. Outside of that, you'll get endorsements, etc. So as I think a sea change is happening for black men in the world of sports, I believe for the draft last year, of the top 10 athletes that were drafted in the NFL, half of them were represented by black men. The same men who can't get interviews with the NFL. They even have to have a Rooney Rule. Think about that. They have to impose a law to make sure you have liberty and justice for all. There's no law imposed to becoming a sports marketing agent. Just got to get certified. And so I really do appreciate that. If you want something, just go after it. And then at the same time, I want to say thank you to the California Lottery, the Powerball Mega Million Super Lotto. I'm going to win that lottery. I'm going to say it one more time. I say I'm going to win that lottery. You got to believe. May as well. Really do appreciate that. Oftentimes they buy spots on Big C Sports Podcast. But for those of you who are out there, maybe you bite off more than you can chew. Thinking of that, the Big C Burger is a tasty burger, and it comes with a lot of exotic meats. Also, the Big C Coffee. Why's the cup got to be so big? Also coming soon, the Big C Cookie comes in one size extra large. Well, sometimes you gamble a little bit too much, more than you can choose, or more than you can chew off. But 800 gamblers, Coach Steve Mariucci, former coach of the 49ers, did a PSA during the NFL playoffs, and he had it written down on a chalkboard on television, like writing out plays. And he also does work with the NFL Network. If you have any issues with gambling yourself or someone you know, just lead them to 800 Gambler. That's 800 GAMBLER. And as we know, the Supreme Court that still can't pass the Voting Rights Act, but they legalized betting. So some communities in California, up and down the highways, they're building casinos. Isn't that something? Casinos to take your money. It's all fair level work, but the Supreme Court said that's possible back in 2018. So just make sure, if you're in situations sometimes you can't get out of it, can people gamble legally on sports now? The Supreme Court said yeah. And in most states in the United States, I think there's 35 states where you can, maybe even more than that. But when you think about this, how the NBA and Major League Baseball are lobbying states to cash in on sports betting. And you know, the NFL with Brian Flores having the lawsuit against the Miami Dolphins saying that he was being paid to lose games, to throw games. And he wouldn't do it, so they said, you're fired. But the NBA, Major League Baseball are lobbying to states to cash in on sports betting. And billions of dollars are being wagered at legal sports books across the United States. The NBA and Major League Baseball are aligning to reap some of the profits. And that, I always talk about shenanigans in sports. If you don't believe in shenanigans, then why are these leagues? They understand it exists. They try to crack down on it. But how do you crack down on something that you endorse? Just a thought. Thinking about it. Could legalized gambling cause problems in professional sports? Well, look at Pete Rose. They said he was betting on sports. That's what kept him out of the Hall of Fame, one of the greatest baseball players ever. Played with that big red wrecking machine with Cincinnati Reds back in the day. And when you think about how sometime a team is favored by 5 and there's about 7 seconds left in the game, and the opponent comes down court and gets a last-second shot or dunk with about 3 or 4 seconds left. And so instead of winning by, maybe they're ahead by 6, they win by 4. Okay? So the losing team didn't cover the point spread. Just a thought. Just a thought. I know people think about the Juwan Howard situation with Michigan and Wisconsin, and then the coach called a timeout. I mean, I'm not saying that's the case, but sometimes you just see things that make you go, It can be really odd at times. But sports betting is big in the United States, and I just make sure that I give out that PSA. If you know anybody going through issues, you got to know sometimes there's a reason. Sometimes there's a reason that because it's been out there on I don't do a lot of social media, but in the Super Bowl, when the Cincinnati Bengals and the Los Angeles Rams were playing in Super Bowl 56, well, the Rams had scored a touchdown and they missed the PAT, the point after touchdown. The ball just kind of rolled out of the holder's hands. Here's a guy that's been holding football all year long as a professional player, college player. In the biggest game of his life, it just rolls out of his hands. So the Rams ended up winning by 3. Could have won by 4. And the point spread, I think, was 4. So, I mean, who knows if this was going to happen, but it turned out being that way. They didn't win by 4. That was a point spread. So even though if you bet it on Cincinnati to cover the spread, you lost because they didn't. They lost by 3 instead of 4. I mean, it's funny how things happen. You just got to have an eye for it. I love also paying homage to the Veterans Crisis Hotline. They really are experienced helping veterans and their loved ones. That includes anyone going through issues. Pick up the phone. Call 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. They will stand on their head to get you some help. You can also text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net. And give the Veterans Crisis Hotline some praise. Give it praise, praise, praise. They all need help, especially what's going on with Russia and also the Ukraine and then the United States. And, man, United Nations stepping in, and what in the world is wrong with Putin trying to go back to the days of Stalin? Hopefully cooler heads will prevail. But we haven't had that type of a buildup in Europe since the 1940s, actually the late 1930s. It's a shame, but can't we all just get along? How much more land does Russia want? Everybody's so busy watching football, basketball, and baseball. All's fair and level. I want to say thank you to Budweiser Zero. It has 0% alcohol, but 100% honest game. Sports fans, when you're watching the big game, you want to eat the Big C Burger. It's a tasty burger, and it comes with what's all this exotic meat. Rumor has it tastes better in your mouth than it does in your hands. And I guarantee it because I've tried several of them myself. Also, I want to say when you're having that Big C Burger, you want to have that Big C coffee. It comes in one size extra large. Why does the cup have to be so big? If it's too much coffee for you, just take what's left over and pour it in the next cup. And coming soon, the Big C cookie. Why does the cookie have to be so big? It does taste better in your mouth than it does in your hands. Kind of like M&M's. Let it melt in your mouth, not in your hands. A lot of things taste better in your mouth than they do in your hands. And the Big C cookie is definitely one of them that's coming soon. All fair and not a war. Tastes better in your mouth than it does in your hands. Well, I do appreciate that. I'm going to take what's called the Big C pause, also known as the Big C timeout. When I come back, I'm going to talk more about what's going on in the sports universe. In the words of former California Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger and the Terminator, I'll be back. All right, we're back from the Big C pause, also known as the Big C timeout. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on 23 podcast applications all over the universe and streaming on 4 TV applications. Really do appreciate that. I know a lot of people think about Black History Month as just a month and the 12th calendar month in the United States. I love saying Black History Month is every day. All life began on the African continent. I hope that every school teacher will give this assignment. You don't even need a school teacher to do it. You can get it from Big C Sports. Google Dr. Leakey, considered the father of paleontology, and then Dr. Gregor Mendel, considered the father of genetics. They opine that all life came from Africa, and that the dark gene is dominant, the light skin is recessive, that you can get the dominant gene to reproduce the recessive gene, but the recessive gene cannot reproduce the dominant gene. So that's Dr. Leakey and Gregor Mendel. Google that. Everybody came from the same source, from the African continent before the diaspora, because people migrated all over the world. But as we still focus on that's the macro perspective of Black History Month. Everybody's black according to genetics. Everybody has a dominant and recessive gene in them, because without the dominant gene, you could not exist as a recessive gene person. Just Google what that means. You heard it first on Big C Sports. But I'm going to say, be that as it may, of the most influential African Americans throughout history in the United States, oftentimes people think of Dr. King. Really no single African American in history is perhaps more famous than Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. A federal holiday on the third Monday of each January celebrates his legacy. But there are so many other people who have been very instrumental in Black History Month. I think it's so important. My parents, most influential in my life, doing everything possible to raise a family and teach us morals and how to read. That's why every day I encourage people to read something, and don't just listen to mainstream Eurocentric views of history. Because even the European or ethnocentric history teachers, they cut off the root of where they came from. Google that. All life came from Africa. Every single person on the planet, according to science. And I know some people don't believe in science, but you have Rosa Parks, best known for refusing to move to the back of the bus after being demanded that she give up her seat to a white person. Rosa Parks was labeled as the mother of freedom, the mother of the freedom movement. Now think about that. She had a disobedience to listen to someone who came from recessive traits. It's deeper than just saying race, black or white. We're all the same race, the human race. But people are labeled to put people in a box, a category. But it's amazing how so many people, they don't know the history of where their own ancestry came from. And so therefore we have these isms about people feeling that they can discriminate against others, etc. We all came from the same source. But I really love paying that attention to it. And there's another person that I always pay homage to. I close every show with it. Muhammad Ali, Cassius Clay. He was born in 1942. Muhammad Ali made his name in the sport of boxing as one of the greatest. I am the greatest. One of the greatest athletes in the history of the universe. And a heavyweight champion of all time. He changed his name in the early 1960s from Cassius Clay, and he changed it to Muhammad Ali. And he had to go to jail for it because of how screwed up our society was back then. And today we still don't have a Voting Rights Act passed. Isn't that something? And then I think Frederick Douglass, it's amazing. There's an autobiography called The Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass. And it's ironic because if you look at any picture of Frederick Douglass and you look in the Bible, in the book of Revelation, chapter 1, verses 14 and 15, the book of Daniel, chapter 7, verse 9 and 10 and 6, and all over Colossians, Christ, it described Christ. Christ, a man of color, has skin the color of brass and hair like lamb's wool. Now look at Frederick Douglass and tell me if you were to put the scriptures that I just gave you under the Bible next to Frederick Douglass and tell yourself, ask it, does he look like the depiction of Christ? You just got to Google it. If you Google it, you'll realize it's religion's behind a lot of garbage too that's painted Jesus as a blonde-haired, blue-eyed, recessive trait person. Couldn't have been. Not even from people say they don't believe in religion. That's their belief. But you believe in science, don't you? I just gave you science and religion. You only get that on Big C Sports. And for that, you got to give it some praise. I know I don't argue about who's bigger and stronger and faster than somebody else. But give that some praise. My show's factual. That's why I'm ESPY nominated. I don't hold punches, and I don't try to save anybody's feelings. I just want people to read. Because if we read more stuff about humanity, then maybe, just maybe, we'll all respect each other more. I hate what's going on with Russia and Ukraine right now. but nothing I can do about that. But I do want to talk about something also, because Big C Sports even goes into the world of golf. I play golf as much as I can, and I'm really, really good at it too. Yeah. Don't let lightning strike. I'm really, really good at it. I've gotten so good at it. I think I'm just as good as the guys that play on the professional tour. And I'm going to tell you something. There's a golfer by the name of Greg Norman, and he's one of the great ones. And he's talked about the PGA, how they cannot ban players. Greg Norman spoke with the media at the Saudi International events earlier this month, and there's many reasons as people don't want to deal with the human rights issues, etc. Ironically, the world just celebrated the Olympics in China, and now we're talking about not having golf tournaments in Saudi Arabia. They both have human rights issues. But last week, many of the best golfers in the world, they spoke out in favor of the PGA Tour against a Saudi-backed breakaway tour. In response to think about it, brewing on the other side of the country, Greg Norman, one of the greatest golfers, he was busy crafting a memo to send to various players and their agents. Big C Sports becoming a sports marketing agency in 2022. But his title was directed at the PGA Tour cannot ban players for whatever political reason. Again, the United States just participated in the Beijing Olympics, the Winter Olympics, in China, with all the issues of human rights issues, and same with Saudi Arabia. Well, I just opened up talking about Black History Month and how Dr. King and Rosa Parks and Frederick Douglass, they were also dealing with human rights issues here in the United States of America. Isn't that something? We had apartheid in South Africa. People decided to protest and not buy products from South Africa, and so it changed the government. So whatever Greg Norman's doing, whether people agree with him or not, I like the fact that he's speaking up. Because some of the same people that say you cannot go to a tournament in Saudi Arabia, we just had the United States participate in the Olympics, the Winter Olympics in China. Talking out of two sides of our mouths at times. But the idea floated around repeatedly by Jay Monahan, commissioner of the PGA Tour, and much has been made of the legality of such a ban. Think about that. A perceived head of the breakaway tour that Norman was getting his points in line. The memo in which Norman's team says shared with players on Friday of the Genesis including 7 points and 25 bullets. When you think about this, there were implications that the tour would violate antitrust laws, its own nonprofit status, its own bylaws, and even more. Think about it, the memo was attached to Norman. Continue to state that golf can coexist with the PGA Tour and going into different parts of the world to play golf. Golf is not necessarily very integrated in the United States, and there's a lot of reasons for that. Golf came out of its own junk, the way Lee Elder was treated. Even golf didn't show him respect until he was up in age and kind of sickly. And then they trotted him out there at the Masters for what? Why didn't they do it when he was kicking everybody's butt? So people evolve. Or sometimes they just want to atone at the final days. But as Greg Norman spoke, he said they encourage people to request the PGA Tour provide you with their threats in writing and their written opinions of its outside counsel that these bans are legal and enforceable. And I'm telling you, there's a lot of friction in golf because Saudi can offer a lot of golfers a lot of money, a lot more money than running around the country or flying around the country playing different tournaments. Because there's a lot more money at the end of an ink pen when you go into some tournaments that are in Saudi Arabia. Maybe guys that are trying to go out on a weekend and play in a major, they may win $5 million or $10 million, depending on where they finish. Someone in Saudi Arabia can write you a check for $50 million. Think about that. And some of the same people that say, oh, we shouldn't have golfers go to Saudi Arabia and play in tournaments, but we can send the United States of America to the Olympics in Beijing, which has also human rights issues. So it's an oxymoron. You're trying to hold up a holier-than-thou view, but then we stand for the flag as people go into a country where they have the human rights issues. And we pretend it doesn't happen. And then NBC, I think it was Samantha Guthrie, and had a thought about alleged human rights. They had alleged human rights. Well, people know it's not alleged. But the United States of America went there anyway. But then golfers can't go to Saudi Arabia. I mean, you got to choose a side. Phil Mickelson issued an apology because of a bizarre stretch of what he was going to do. Go get the money. Show me the money. They were going to write Phil a big check. And Mickelson's comments reached tour players just in time for Justin Thomas to call them egotistical, and for McIlroy to label them naive, selfish, egotistical, ignorant. But at the root of Mickelson's demise was an intention, as he said, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to get more money than he's ever gotten in his life. That's not what he said, but he said he wanted to reshape how the PGA Tour operates. That's not true. Mickelson wanted to go for the money. They were writing him a big check. That would have been the honest thing. How's he going to reshape how the PGA Tour operates? They still have their own issues. The Masters, in order to join that, you got to be a white person. I think they let Condoleezza Rice in. I don't know if she's a member or not. But there's a lot of issues that you can fix in the United States if you want to change how the PGA Tour operates. And the private golf clubs around the country that you can't get in, you don't have to go to Saudi Arabia for that. It was about the money. Show me the money. Mickelson wanted the money. And he took a lot of pushback on it. And then he said he's trying to shape how the PGA Tour operates. If you do that, don't you do it from within before you go? Phil Mickelson knows it was about the money, but he just doesn't have the guts to say it. So, Phil Mickelson, the reigning PGA champion, considering the breakaway tour was detailed by some pretty bad comments published in an excerpt and a biography. Mickelson called the PGA Tour a dictatorship. That's an oxymoron. If the PGA Tour is a dictatorship, then get back all the damn money you've ever made from the PGA Tour. Speaking out of both sides of his neck. If it's a dictatorship, get back the millions of dollars you made from it. If he's honest, he would have told you they offered him a lot more money in Saudi Arabia. How in the hell is he going to say, oh, the PGA Tour is a dictatorship, but I'm not going to get back any of that money because the PGA has shown me the money? That good old boy, when he went to Arizona State, same state that voted no on a Martin Luther King holiday. I'm not saying it's Phil Mickelson's fault. But how does a man say that the PGA Tour is a dictatorship, so he's willing to participate in a dictatorship as long as he makes a lot of money? It's not a dictatorship. The PGA Tour is made up of corporations that pay for your butt to swing a golf club. It's not a dictatorship. They have laws and rules and regulations. Just like they have bylaws that some African Americans can't join Augusta Country Club. Not a dictatorship. They have their own rules. You don't have to agree with them. But for those comments and others calling them reckless and promising to take some time away, golf definitely needs change. Everybody needs change. And the real change is always preceded by disruption. Now he sounds like Colin Kaepernick. Colin Kaepernick says stop killing black kids. Phil Mickelson said he just wants to make more money. I wonder if the media will turn on Phil Mickelson the way they turned on Colin Kaepernick. What's more egregious? Saying stop killing black kids? Or how dare you not let me go and golf in Saudi Arabia because of their poor record on human rights? Or as NBC Sports says, alleged human rights violations. They're not alleged. I mean, think about the world of golf. Disruption throughout competition is what Norman's team believes the PGA Tour is repressing. Listen, when Lee Elder couldn't even be part of the PGA because he's beautiful and black. And now these white guys that have made millions of dollars, now they're trying to turn on the PGA Tour because if they go golfing and win a major, maybe they make between $5 to $10 million. If you go play in Saudi Arabia, they can write you a check for $50 million, where it may take someone 4 or 5 years to make $50 million. Golfing. You do it in one weekend in Saudi Arabia. So now they're saying it's repressive. Isn't that an oxymoron? White guys who wouldn't stand up for black men trying to enter the PGA are saying that the PGA is repressive because they don't want to lose sponsorship over you going into Saudi Arabia. If it's repressive, quit. Boycott it. So that's the great Greg Norman. It said, we will not permit the tour as long as a long-standing monopolist over professional golf to stifle free and fair competition to the detriment of professional golfers and the game itself. Norman said, for the good of your clients and the great game of golf, we hope you will not as well. Your players should not be encumbered by these outrageous threats. See, it's not about human rights. It's about the money. And the golfers, they're in it for the money. They could give a damn about human rights. If they cared about human rights, there'd be no discrimination in golf. You got the Masters coming up down in Augusta, Georgia. Private club. If they cared about human rights, they would have said, let's boycott the Masters because of the way they treated people of color. Are they going to do that? No, that thing with Phil Mickelson was about the money. You only hear that on Big C Sports. Give everybody some praise. Give it praise. We're going to take what's called the Big C Pause, also known as the Big C Timeout. When I come back, going to talk more about some other sports, including the NBA basketball. All right, we are back from the Big C Pause, also known as the Big C Timeout. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on 23 podcast applications all over the universe. And streaming on 4 TV applications. Really do appreciate that. So whether it's golf or football, basketball, or baseball, people have a right to go out and make the money. And I just think it's disingenuous when golfers say they want so bad to go to Saudi Arabia to play golf so they can expand the PGA when they have human rights issues. How about fixing issues in the United States first? But the media is not going to turn on Phil Mickelson the way they turned on Colin Kaepernick. Colin Kaepernick and Phil Mickelson. Colin said, stop killing black kids. Phil said, why can't we golf in a country that lacks human rights? The Olympics were just held in China. So, I mean, it's either way. People look at it how they want to look at it. But fix things in the United States first. Tonight, NBA basketball, a beautiful Thursday, February 24th, 2022. Cleveland, this for you. Cleveland's at Detroit. Boston, Cleveland's a good team. I talked about the NBA power rankings. Cleveland's making some noise in the Eastern Conference. Isn't it something now they're better than the LA Lakers? And LeBron James made Cleveland their only championship in 50-plus years in that city. Isn't that something? They're a good team now. They're not going to win the Eastern Conference, but they're still a good team. Boston Celtics doing their thing, playing at Brooklyn tonight. That's on TNT television. That's a game that has a lot of potential stars in it, but things aren't the same until you get Kevin Durant back for Brooklyn. Boston should take that game. Atlanta, they're at Chicago. Chicago's playing really good basketball right now. That's a team that reminds the people in the Windy City of the days of Michael Jordan. Not so fast, my friend. Meaning they are a good team again. And they're a young team, and they have a bright future ahead of them. The Memphis Grizzlies, they are a shining star out of the Western Conference, playing at Minnesota against the Minnesota Timberwolves. What a game that should be. And then the Phoenix Suns, they have, obviously, without the services of Chris Paul, but they're playing at the Oklahoma City Thunder, them good old boys. down in Oklahoma. And Phoenix is making a lot of noise, not only in the NBA Western Conference, but this is the team was up 2-0 over the defending Milwaukee Bucks before they got swept 4-2, if that makes sense to you. The Golden State Warriors up in the great Northwest taking on the Portland Trail Blazers. That game will be on TNT tonight just after the show starts up pretty soon. And then the Steph Curry, them good boys got it. He's not going to hit 50 up in Portland, but he's going to most likely have the Jazz out in up in Portland. There's a Jazz city in Portland, and we'll see if they get their groove back. And then the Denver Nuggets, they're taking on the Sacramento Kings in Northern California. That game also tips off about 7 p.m. at the Golden One Center in beautiful downtown Sacramento, California. All's fair in Leavenworth. So at the same time, we have NBA back after the All-Star break. Give the NBA some praise. Give it some praise. And also, I just want to talk a little bit too about this thought of NBA players and who's actually the face of the NBA now. I look at the NBA with Steph Curry, and of course he has the best. I think Curry has the best last name in the history of the NBA universe. He shoots a jump shot. It reminds me of my own jump shot. I can shoot like Curry, but when you think about the face of the NBA, and you have only so many players, where there's LeBron James, obviously he would be the patriarch of the stars in the NBA at this time because he's been doing his thing for about 18 years now. And King James came out of Akron St. Vincent St. Mary's High School in Akron, Ohio, and born in the same hospital with Steph Curry. And Steph Curry came out of Davidson College before joining the Golden State Warriors. But now if you look at the NBA, Steph Curry, is he the face of the NBA, or is it LeBron James? Or is it Kevin Durant? Or is it Chris Paul? Because is it Joel Embiid? There's a lot of players that it could be. But going back to the days of Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, they were the first of the face of the NBA because they had the NCAA College Basketball Championship with Indiana State versus Michigan State back in the day, and that came out on television, and that really sparked those two players. And then to go on to the NBA for Boston and LA, East Coast versus West Coast, beat LA, beat Boston. And so Magic Johnson and Larry Bird became the face of the NBA, even though Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, the all-time leading scorer in the NBA, and then Dr. J, those were the two best players in the NBA, even when Bird and Johnson came into the league. And then, of course, you have the great Michael Jordan, who came in and he was dunking with his tongue hanging out of his mouth. But right now, to show you how good the NBA is now, Curry might be the face of the NBA, but the Joker also the reigning MVP. King Giannis Antetokounmpo, the reigning NBA Finals MVP. But you have so many great players that can carry the mantle. So if you build it just around Curry, and you can because he's an all-time leader, shooter in the NBA, when you hear the sound, you know, Steph Curry for three! We hear that, and the crowd cheers, dropping 50 at the All-Star game, 75th year anniversary of the NBA, and people came out and saw it. But there's only few players who've created a sensation in the NBA, and like where there's Michael Jordan, you can't dispute Michael Jordan, but with his dunking, tongue hanging out of his mouth, Kobe Bryant doing his thing with his swag, and he came on and did his thing for the Lakers his entire career, his clutch scoring. LeBron James been around the block from high school, went to Cleveland, then down to Miami, back to Cleveland, now Los Angeles. All around game, people know he's very dominant. And then you have Steph Curry, a three-point shooting expert, and it's changing the game. A lot of great players in the world of the NBA. But when you think about it, if you're talking about three-point shooting, yeah, no one's added what Steph Curry's done. Outside of Steph Curry, you got to go back to Jesus Shuttleworth, Ray Allen, when he did his thing. But there's no one that can shoot like Steph Curry. Going back to the All-Star performance, dropping 50 points. He's an amazing shooter, a great player. His father Dale played in the NBA for many, many moons. His brother Seth plays in the NBA. So these are great players. But Curry's dominance as a three-point shooter, yeah. I would say the face of the NBA as a three-point shooter. But I would still say, as much as I love Curry and the name is great, I would still say right now that LeBron James is still the face of the NBA. When you think about it, LeBron James did his thing without going to college. He came out of Akron St. Vincent St. Mary's High School, and I remember seeing him on a tour in college where they played Modern Day High School of Southern California in basketball. 2 perennial powers from Ohio and also California. So he was doing his thing and had that pressure on him in high school. Steph Curry didn't have that kind of pressure on him in high school. He didn't even go to a Power 5 school. So LeBron's consistency and the fact that LeBron has brought an NBA championship, I think they were even, I don't know if they were crowned national champion in high school or not, but I know they played a national schedule. But to help the Cleveland Cavaliers win an NBA finals, a title, the Miami Heat won too. Think about that. And then to go to Los Angeles, the Golden State, and win one with the Lakers. How could you not say that he's the face of the NBA? Michael Jordan only won an NBA championship with the Chicago Bulls. Didn't have the same success when he played for Washington or Charlotte. Shaquille O'Neal, he only won an NBA, well, I can't say only, but as the reason, he was part of the reason the Lakers won. I know he helped win in Boston also, but he was not the reason that Boston won, if that makes sense. He had his stuff going on down in Miami as well. But for the Lakers, it was Kobe and Shaq. No disputing that. And with Michael Jordan, it was Michael Jordan and the Bulls. Scottie Pippen, not as much. When Michael left, Scottie couldn't get him to the finals. So you can't say that Scottie Pippen was. It was Michael Jordan. LeBron James has done it. Think about it. He's done it with Kyrie Irving. He's done it without Kyrie Irving. He's done it with Dwayne Wade. He's done it without Dwayne Wade. And then he did it with Anthony Davis, a guy who can't stay healthy. Just a thought. LeBron has helped 3 cities win an NBA championship. Now, Curry's only played at Golden State, and Golden State has played in 5 finals. And they're 3-2 in those finals. Think about that. LeBron James has taken 4 NBA championships with 3 different teams. How could he not be the face of the NBA? If you go all around the world and you see these men walking around, let's say they're wearing a suit and tie. Maybe they're at an event, the ESPYs. LeBron James is unmistakable anywhere in the universe. You know who he is. Not just because of his size, about 6'8", 280 pounds or whatever, the beard, but just his physique. He's recognizable anywhere in the world. Steph Curry's not. He blends in, about 6'3", and doesn't have the physique that LeBron has. There's a lot of players that can meander around different cities and not be known as Steph Curry. If you were to go when we had the Olympics, just like back in the day, everyone knew who Michael Jordan was. The bald head. No matter how he was dressed, blue jeans and a t-shirt, or sweatpants, or NBA uniform, or in a jersey, people knew who the great Michael Jordan was. Everywhere he went, people cheered. They did that for Magic Johnson also. Not for Larry Bird. People knew Kareem. Anywhere Kareem went, people knew who Kareem Abdul-Jabbar were. They cheered for Kareem wherever he went because of his height and size. Unmistakable. Even Dr. J. People knew who Dr. J was outside of this country. Everywhere LeBron James goes, he's probably the most recognized sports hero in the world. In fact, in the universe, everybody knows. So he is the face of the NBA, and he's left his imprint in 3 different cities. In Cleveland, this is for you. Also did it in Miami twice. And then did it in Los Angeles. And Los Angeles is the king of the NBA championships with 17 championships. That's a team that everybody knows has the most championships, and they even won one back when they were in Milwaukee before they came out to Los Angeles. Everybody knows that Laker organization. But I would say as much as Steph Curry is amazing, Steph Curry for 3! Well, it's a lot like what we saw at the All-Star game. The room is big enough for more than one person. And the NBA marketing machine is big enough for one person. No one. I talked about Greg Norman earlier and Phil Mickelson and some of the other golfers. The face of golf right now, Bryson DeChambeau, he's a great driver. He's injured right now. It's not Spieth. It's not McIlroy. It's not Johnson. It's still Tiger Woods. Everywhere Tiger goes, people know his face. So Tiger Woods is the face of golf. And he may just win the Masters this year. Isn't that something? You saw him come out and swing the club around. People say, yeah, right. Okay, but the point is, he's still the face of golf. He's still the face of golf, just like LeBron James is the face of the NBA. There's a lot of good players. And they're out there. And even the NFL has a lot of faces in the NFL. But only one quarterback has won 7 NFL championships. I said 8 because when he signs with the 49ers, he'll have a good chance this year to win another championship when Tom Brady signs in San Francisco. But that's a part of being the face of a sport because you're marketed the most and people get to see you everywhere you go. And who's the face of Major League Baseball? Right now, who is the face of Major League Baseball? According to baseball, it would be Big Papi, but it's not. It's Barry Bonds. No matter where he goes, he's recognized all over the world. People know that. And that's something that you can't, I mean, you can argue if you want to, but that's my opinion, and I'm sticking with it. Back in the day, there's a man by the name of Drew Bodini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. And he would always tell Ali, you float like a butterfly, you sting like a bee, rumble, young man, rumble. With all you've got to use, how can you lose? Ali would say, I'm so pretty. I'm so pretty I can't possibly defeat all these Big C burgers make me land on my feet. And the Big C coffee makes me go to the bathroom a lot. Don't even mention the Big C cookie. Why is the cookie gonna be so large? Anyone ever eat a big cookie? Oh man, makes me laugh. My beautiful mother always says I never have an excuse for racism or domestic violence. You know, any man, woman, or child going through that garbage, pick up the phone and ask for help because no man, woman, or child should ever have to go to that garbage on their own. And as I always tell you on every Big C Sports Show, I thank you, I appreciate you, and I hope that you have a super fantastic day.